Hello, everybody, and welcome to Werewolf Week here in the month of October. Now, we are starting with The Wolfman, which is not the original werewolf movie in the Universal lineup. That's just the one that I wanted to start with, so that's why you'll notice there's only 6 cases up here, because we are going to end off with The Werewolf of London, which was the original attempt by Universal that wasn't as well received. So we are going to do 7. There's only 6 cases up there because this one gets a twofer. So we're going to bookend the week with some Universal classics. But we are starting today with The Wolfman. Some of these are going to be more general werewolf stories. These do not come from one particular literary source like a lot of the Dracula and Frankenstein movies that we looked at. Or we will look at. I forget what order I'm posting these in because I'm recording these out of order. But let's talk about Universal's The Wolfman from 1941, starring Lon Chaney Jr. Now, my Wolfman experience as a child was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which also features Dracula and the Wolfman. And if a video about that hasn't been posted yet, it will be very soon. It's going to be somewhere in this month of October. And that same actor plays the Wolfman here. So I thought I was going to get a very similar vibe from him. In Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, he's very sympathetic. He's kind of this guy that's tormented and anguished by this curse that he has upon him, but seems like he's trying to do something with it because he's trying to stop Dracula. So I thought I was going to like this guy, but apparently it takes him a while to get to that sympathetic character, because one of my earliest notes in this movie was, didn't realize he was a creep. So the character, whose name is, I want to say, Larry Talbot, early on we see him working on a telescope. And what does he do with it but creep on some woman that he doesn't know? Which I thought, like, that's bad enough, right? But then he goes to her place of work and asks about something that he saw in her room. She works underneath where she lives. And he asks for some pair of earrings, and she's like, well, we don't have those. And he's like, well, you've got them up in your room, don't you? And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And then he, like, tries to tell her that he's a sidekick, and that's how he knew it, and blah, blah, blah. And then he keeps saying, he's like, well, we'll talk about it more. I'll take you out tonight. She's like, no. And he's like, okay, I'll be here at 8. She's like, no. And he's okay, see you at 8. And then he comes back at 8. And she's like, oh, you're here. And he's like, who are you expecting? And she was like, no one. And he's like, he's really coming on strong with this lady. And then she tells him later on that she's engaged. That doesn't faze him. Because then later on after that point, he forcibly kisses her without her consent. And I'm like, I know this is 1941, but come on, bro. Take a hint. He's supposed to be this, like, wealthy son of this big shot in the town. Pick someone else and quit looking at women through your telescope. So, not a big fan of this guy. Bela Lugosi is in this movie. Dracula himself. Didn't realize that. Doesn't have a big role, but he's there. At the time of recording, I haven't watched the Dracula movies yet. So, it's kind of, I've seen images of him in the role. And he plays Dracula in the Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which I have watched. But I keep getting little bits of Bella before I actually start Dracula Week, which is, I don't know, interesting. Okay, so I started writing down some of the iconography of werewolves that we have in popular culture. And apparently a lot of them either came from this movie or this movie helped spread the idea to a wider audience because it was the first time it was shown in a film. Because I haven't read a whole lot of werewolf folklore from pre-1941, but apparently different regions, like, their folklore varied widely, which makes sense because it's not real or true. But some things that this movie brings in is the pentagram iconography, which I've never associated that with werewolves, so I don't know if I've just missed that, or if that kind of died out at some point. To me, that's more of like a demons and demonic possession type of thing. But in this film, they say that all werewolves are marked with a pentagram, and they see a pentagram on the hand of their next victim, and it's like a big thing. I think there's also there's some kind of a charm necklace that gets moved from character to character for protection. I think that's also a pentagram, but I could be wrong. But we get the allergy to silver. They mention silver bullets in this, but there's not actually any silver bullets in the story. But there is a silver-handled cane that is used to kill multiple werewolves. We have Wolfsbane, which they don't really... It doesn't factor in at all. They don't say that it does anything. I feel like I'm aware of Wolfsbane in the pop culture horror scene, but I don't remember if it was like something that they were weak against, almost like vampires and garlic. I feel like I've almost heard of them more in relation to vampires than werewolves, but I could be totally wrong about that. So it doesn't factor into the story at all, but they do mention Wolfsbane, and we have Wolfsbane in this movie. It just doesn't really do much. And then the concept of the Curse of the Werewolf, which is what the next movie we're going to watch is called, The Curse of the Werewolf. The idea of that being passed on through the bite, because I guess normally it was some form of a curse that would curse you with lycanthropy, but in this, it's passed on to other victims through biting, and that's kind of what I always thought, was a werewolf bites someone and they become a werewolf. So a lot of, at least my pop culture understanding of werewolves, seems to have, if not originated from this film, then been expanded in the public knowledge from this film. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I was, some of these old movies, they move at a slower pace, so sometimes I do some stuff on my phone while I'm watching. So I was reading through the IMDb trivia, and apparently Lon Chaney Jr., the actor, the star of this film, was just horrible to the actress playing the, for lack of a better term, love interest, more like object of his affection, and he treats her like an object and not a person. But like, apparently he would like scare her while he was in makeup. He would sneak up on her and scare her in the werewolf uniform and like do all sorts of weird things to her. And apparently the reasoning was because he got drunk and caused some damage to some props or some sets or something. And so the studio punished him by giving her his trailer. So it didn't even have anything to do with her, but he's just a jerk. So I put Lon Chaney was a creep too, apparently. Lon Chaney Jr., that is. I don't know about his father. So yeah, it's just like, I don't like this character, and I'm not particularly fond of the guy playing him. But, okay, let's watch some werewolf stuff. So we have, in this movie, different types of werewolves. So, the character played by Bela Lugosi, whose name is Bella, he's also a werewolf. He's the one that bites Larry, I think is his name, that turns him into a werewolf. But when he's in it, or when he transforms into a werewolf, he's literally just a wolf. And by wolf, I mean, apparently, Lon Chaney Jr.'s actual dog, which was a German Shepherd that they cast as the wolf in this movie. But he takes on the form of a wolf, whereas Larry Talbot takes on this wolf man. That's the name of the movie. They don't say that in the movie, though. But he's a man with wolf-like features. And apparently in certain versions of the script or certain treatments or something before the final version, there was an idea of playing with whether or not he was actually transforming or whether it was all in his head. So in the earlier versions, there weren't actually any on-screen transformations, and he was more in the form of a man because it was like, did he really transform into a wolf? Or is it almost like a Jekyll Hyde thing where in his mind he's giving in to these animal instincts, and so he sees himself as this wolf kind of to excuse the stuff that he does. But that got changed, and so we literally see him transform, and he is literally really a werewolf. But they didn't feel the need to make werewolves consistent, so sometimes werewolves turn into actual wolf forms, and sometimes this more of a hybrid form. And maybe that I haven't watched the sequels yet, so maybe that's something that they explore in the lore of a hybrid form and then a true animal form. I know that's how it works in Dungeons and Dragons, is that you have 3 forms total. So maybe that gets explained further on, but not in this original movie. Then at the end I wrote, of course the girl falls for him anyway, because despite the fact that he's a creep, he ends up telling her that he was spying on her with his telescope. That doesn't seem to faze her. It makes her more interested. The fact that she's told him she's engaged, and he forcibly kisses her anyway, and basically he's just a sleaze of a guy, so of course she falls in love with him. Because just don't give up, fellas, right? 18 no's and a yes is still a yes, as Family Guy's version of Sean Connery says. That's sarcasm, by the way. Don't do that. But, you know, it's 1941, so the guy gets the girl. And then stuff happens, werewolf things happen, and then, spoiler alert for a movie from 1941, he is beat to death with his own silver cane by his father. And that's how and literally, like, that happens, and he, like, transforms back into himself, and the people argue about, because only the father saw him transform, but I think the woman saw him while he was transformed, but only the father saw him transform back from the wolf after he was dead. So everybody else is just like, well, the wolf attacked the girl and must have also killed Larry, and then Larry's dad, Sir John, his name is, killed the wolf. Even though the wolf's not, or maybe they don't think he killed the wolf. I don't know. I have to sneeze. Can I hold off on this? I don't think so. We're going to try to power through. But anyway, he dies, and like within 2 minutes, the movie's just over. And the girl's just like, oh, Larry! And that's the end of the movie. So, this wasn't one of my favorites, which was disappointing because from Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which features the Wolfman, as a kid, the Wolfman was one of the things that scared me the most. And like, I have memories of being scared of that thing. And I especially latched on to the concept of this is a good person who has this bad curse. And now watching this, because it's the same character. I know they're not strictly in the same timelines, but, you know, it's more or less the same character. And I'm just like, this guy is horrible. And I don't want to say he deserves everything that happened to him. I don't know everything that happens to him, but he certainly doesn't deserve to be happy because he's a sleazeball. So, kind of sad. Kind of sad about where this movie took me, but that's where I'm at. So hopefully the rest of these werewolves have some actually sympathetic characters that I can feel bad for. Because that's, in my opinion, what these movies are supposed to do. But that's all I've got to say on Universal's 1941. Yes, The Wolfman. Let me know if you have any thoughts, but that's everything that I have. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Hey everybody, Sam Tom here. Just wanted to let you know that I have 2 channels. If you're watching my music content, I also have a movie channel where I talk about movies and TV shows. If you're watching my movie content, I have a music channel where I do song covers, instrument demos, things like that. So feel free to check that out. Obviously, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that YouTube stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.